What's the proper term for ball sack?
Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Feels like it's been a hot minute since I filmed a video, and that's probably because it has. So I thought I'd tell a story about the grooming experience from hell. Now, I don't want to wish any ill will or any, I'm not trying to badmouth this business or anything like that, because we've been taking my other dog there. For those of you who have watched my videos, you might know that I have two dogs. One is a smaller dog, and the other one is an Old English sheepdog that we recently got, and he is like 8 months old. So we've been taking my little dog to this place for 8 years, the entirety of his life, and we've never had an experience like this or anything negative. So Max is 8 months old, and he is 53 pounds. I knew eventually he wouldn't get groomed, even though, I was bathing him like every 2 weeks, brushing him, deep conditioning him. Yes, I was deep conditioning my Old English sheepdog. Anyway, so I knew he was going to eventually need grooming. My dad actually went there to pick up my other dog the one day and showed them a picture of my dog Max and said, "This is the dog. This is how old he is. He's very nice, but he's a puppy and he's playful and he like puppy bites, like where he's really not biting, but he's like," they call that mouthing. So he's puppy mouthing a lot. And, how much around how much would this be? And they're like, oh, between $50 and $60, depending on everything we do and how well the dog behaves. So I then called to make an appointment, and I talked to the lady very much in detail about Max, his size, his personality, and everything like that, and what I was looking for. And she told me the same thing, $50 to $60 more if he's really bad. And I asked her, because of the puppy mouthing, if they had a muzzle. And they said they do have a muzzle, but that would be an extra $25 to put on him because of the dangerous dog fee. And I was like, well, he's not dangerous. Like, you can literally put your hand in his bowl of food while he's eating and he won't even so much as snarl at you. Like, he's so friendly. He's not dangerous. And she's like, yeah, I know, but any dog that has to wear the muzzle automatically goes under the dangerous dog category or whatever. So before we do that, would call you to come and to help hold him. And I was like, okay, that's a little weird, but whatever. Yeah, that's fine. So I make my appointment. So then comes the day of the appointment, and it's a Friday. My son was almost late getting to school because that's how long I spent in there talking to both groomers about what I wanted with the dog. And I basically said I trimmed his nails a little over a week ago. But if they need trimmed again, trim them, because with all the hair, it is very hard to see the quicks in the nails, and I didn't want to make him bleed, so I knew I might have missed some, or some might not be as short as they could be, or whatever. And I said, I don't know about the anal glands, how that works with big dogs, and they said normally big dogs don't need it done, and I said just like the ears cleaned and whatever, and then, just shaved. I want him to just be trimmed up, but to still look like a sheepdog, but just trimmed up, cleaned up, whatever. And they're like, okay. And they said, again, if we need you, we'll call you. So I leave. I'll drop my son off. I run a couple errands, get a phone call that he's done and we can come pick him up. And I'm like, okay, how was he? And the lady goes, oh, he was great for a puppy and for his first time. Like, he did great. And I said, oh, okay, wow, like, I'm shocked. That's awesome. Okay. So I go there to get the dog, and they're like, okay, that's going to be $59 something. And I'm like, okay. So I pay them, and I tip her. And then she brings out the dog. And my dog literally is like, he looks like a plucked chicken. And, I'll look if I have some pictures in my phone and maybe insert them, but I didn't even like want to take photos of it because I was just like, I miss him fluffy. So I was like, oh, and she's like, oh, is that too short? And I'm like, well, we'll see how fast it grows then. And he just kept like shaking his ears and shaking his head and like his ears flapping. And she's like, he didn't like his ears trimmed. So he's been doing that a lot, and he'll probably continue to do that. So don't be alarmed by it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So he gets in the car and he's just doing it and doing it and doing it. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is annoying. So we get home, and as soon as we get in the door, I notice the tips of his ears are bleeding. And I'm like, what the? So I look at them and I'm like, yeah, both ears are bleeding. I look further at him a little bit more and I realize his, what's the proper term for ball sack? His ball carriage. Ball carriage. I don't know, whatever. Testicles were like razor burnt and they were bright red, and then like the part of his dog wiener that like, it's not called, it's like the outer something, the pre something, I don't know what it is, but you know, the outside that you can see of the dog penis was like the same thing right up the shaft of it. And I'm like, oh my God, like that looks painful. And then I noticed his chin all razor burnt and like drops of dry blood. And I'm like, WTF is going on here? Like, wow. So I call the groomer, and the groomer that groomed my dog left. The lady said she left as soon as she was done with my dog. And she said that she was grooming right next to her and she never once complained about needing someone to hold him or anything like that. So she didn't understand like what went wrong. And I told her about what was happening, and I literally was like so nice. I was just like,
can I put Neosporin on it? Should I put Neosporin on it? Like, what should I do?
And she's like, well, I don't know. He might form a hematoma, and especially since he keeps shaking his head because that's bringing the blood to the tips of the ears and blah, blah, blah. So as I'm looking at the dog's ears, they're bleeding, and the inside of his ears, like the inside of the flap, just starts turning dark purple and then like filling up. And I'm like, and I tell the breeder this, and she's like, you need to go to the vet. She's like bruising on internally, like you need to go to the vet and make sure everything's okay. So I'm like, we get there and he gets looked over, and they're just, the vet, she was just like, oh my God, like I have never seen like damage like this from someone grooming a dog. Like the amount of bruising, and she even noticed a lot more on him. Like his one eye was cut and all red and swollen out right above here. And like, I don't know if I didn't notice it or if it just got worse like by the time we got to the vet. And even now there's still like a ball in there underneath there where I guess it's probably healing internally. I don't know. And his ears, you know, they were just all bruised up on the like inside. It was more of like an internal bruising, if that makes sense. And then they were all just clumped up with like blood and scabbage at the tips. And like I said about his privates, and she looked at him all down there, and it was just horrible. And I mean, it was just like a bad situation. So she actually wanted to do blood work because she couldn't imagine this much bruising being caused from a groomer. So they did in-house blood work. Everything was good, thankfully. And, you know, I felt really bad about everything because he needed a shot of Benadryl, a shot of some type of pain medicine, because they were trying to, like, ease his pain, which they thought he was experiencing, and, like, sedate him so he'd quit flopping his ears back and forth. So he needed all that. He was drugged up for the rest of the day. Like, I felt so bad for him. And I had to call this groomer on the way home and be like, this, you know, because she told me she'd pay for the vet bill. So I had to call the groomer and be like, this bill is $52, I think it was. So luckily, the groomer was super understanding, and like she was actually thanking me for being so cool and not like losing my shit over this, and like, just, you know, rolling with the punches, I guess. And I mean, because at this point there was really not much I could do, and I didn't want to cause bad blood, and it was what it was. I was just happy that my dog was okay, was going to be okay. So she did pay me back for the vet bill, and then it just sucked because every day for like days after that, his ears would just keep bleeding because it just keeps shaking his head back and forth. And to this day, above his eye there's a lump under, like right where like our brow bone would be. Chin, like where he got cut up on his chin, and it was like all red and like razor burn. He has some type of like bacteria causing him to get these like pimply whiteheads. Now, I'm thinking the only way the bacteria could have got in there and stuff is because of his razor burn and his like open skin wounds from being groomed. So we are still dealing with that. I mean, this was a shit show. I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, really? Really? Like, mind blown at all that came out of this over the freaking dog getting groomed. And then she paid my vet bill, yeah, but at the end of the day, I still ended up paying $75, and they did not clip any of his toenails. And since they had him plucked so short, I could visibly see his toenails, and there were definitely ones that needed clipped. They didn't clean out his ears. You know how they'll like pluck the inner ear hair of a dog's ear and clean it real good? They didn't do that. They didn't do anything with his anal glands, because when the vet went to take his temperature, they popped. So that was nice. But you know, the most important thing is it looks like everything's going to be fine, and we basically just have to go out and get like wash all his toys, get new bowls for him, like stainless steel ones that can't harbor any bacteria, and just like do all this crap to try to get rid of these like they look like whiteheads, like would get kind of. That was my story of the grooming job from hell. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.